I've been using Lua as the programming language for most of my recent projects, so today I decided to try Ruby. It's a programming language that I've never really tried before, and it's more of a scripting language because, as it says on the website, it's a dynamic open source programming language with a focus on simplicity and productivity. Wow, so it's a really simple language you can see in the example here, and I tried it out and I really like it. So it's a really nice language. It's pretty very convenient as it says here as programmer's best friend because it has all of these functions. It's object oriented, so OOP. Just like in I guess Lua is also object oriented. But today I just want to talk about my experience with learning Ruby. I also actually made my own sort of projects while in the process of learning Ruby, so I want to talk about that as well and how the experience was with Ruby, right? So Ruby, as we said, it's a dynamic language, so it's dynamically typed, it's open source, and its main focus is simplicity, right? So it's just like Python. You can go to the documentation and read like the 20-minute tutorial here. So if you were to go to the Ruby in 20 minutes, is this thing right here. I just read this, and it's very simple. So you have this IRB that's like the Ruby shell. So you can just type shit in, and it interprets it. And this, as the title says, you can learn this in about 20 minutes, and then you can just write whatever you want. And so I sort of have these slides here explaining what I've learned about Ruby. So this website obviously explains everything about Ruby, but this is what I've learned about Ruby, and then I'll also talk about my project that I've created. So outputs, you can use puts or print for that, and then parentheses is optional, right? So parentheses, it's for function calls, or actually in Ruby these are more like methods. So you can create as many methods as you want because everything is object oriented, right? This is the sort of object oriented paradigm. And then you can say puts hello world, just like how you would do it in bash, right? So in bash you do echo hello, but then you can also do it in a much more traditional way, which I actually prefer, this parentheses one, which is just to add the parentheses. So that also works. You can use this space here if you want to, but that's a nice little thing about Ruby. Both of these are supported, so instead of creating this war crime, hey, this is better, or this parentheses method is much better, it just supports both. So that's really funny. And then print is basically puts without the backslash n, very similar to C. So C also has puts for just printing a line, right, with the new line at the end, and print is that without the new line at the end. There is no variable keyword, so you can say something like hello var equals or something like that. You just have to say hello equals and then whatever, right? So you give the variable name equals and then the value for it. It also supports booleans, so you could say bool equals true and num equals 15, for example. So both of those work, as well as these strings, and then you can just print that out. So you can use it however you want to, and if you want to concatenate it, so you need to concatenate it with another string. For example, you could say name equals Ruby hello from hashtag curly braces, and then you can just put in whatever you want in here. So that just uses the string concatenation. One thing though that I have to sort of note about this is that the comments are also hashtags. So it is, I guess, a little bit confusing, but I guess it makes sense. These are inside double quotes. But yeah, that's weird. I thought I'd point that out. I love if it used like these as the comments, by the way. Comments doesn't seem to work. But slide 2, we have here maths. So maths is also natively supported in Ruby. So you can do basic maths like maths dot square root x times y. You can also do minus or plus. And this double asterisk is for to the power of. So x to the power of y, that just gives you that. Or it might be the exact opposite, I don't know. And you can even do math with arrays, which are just really strings here. And so you could say like, here we go, we have some fruits and we have some red fruits, and then we can say the following fruits are not red, fruits minus red. So remove the red fruits from the fruits, then we get the non-red fruits. It's really smart when it comes to things like that. And that's actually the example in the main website here. If you go to rubylang.org, you can see Ruby knows what you mean, even if you want to do math on an entire array. Very nice. And in this example, they also use percentage %w, so you can use that. And then for system calls or system executing, you can just use the system method. So system ls-l just executes ls-l, and this returns true if ls-l was successful. Otherwise, it returns false. So this makes error handling really easy, right? So this is actually something that I use a lot in this project that I created. So you could say if I want to know the line count of all of the files in the current directory, if that succeeds, print succeeded. And then we can also use colors. So use x1b for that. In most shells, so bash and stuff, you actually use 033. But on Ruby, Lua, C, C++, Rust, all of those things, you actually use an x1b. I don't know, it's a weird thing. It seems that only shells support 033 because, in programming languages, \0 is probably just for no, right? And then exit, you can just do it like that, exit1. So that's another module, not a function. And then we have hash tables, so that's the last thing that I have in here. We can say hash table equals square braces. So array equals square brackets, while hash table equals square braces. I'm starting to think that these are braces and not square brackets. I don't know symbol names, but you get the point. Hash table can have sub items in them, so here's another hash table inside of a hash table containing another item, sort of like it's not a hash table, it's just new apple red. And otherwise arrays, they will not support stuff like apple :red. Instead you just have to say apple, and that's pretty much it. So arrays are very limited, while hash tables, they're sort of like just regular tables in Lua, right? And that's pretty much it for the Ruby that I've learned. And of course there are many other things that I've learned that I forgot to mention in this. So we'll just take a look at one of the projects I've created. It's called Backup. I guess it's Ruby plus backup, but it's a backup tool. So if I just enter that in, so I use the software that I create, it backs up all of the directories that I want. And this is just showing the usage of it, by the way. So it has nice colors, shows you nice logs, and of course I can edit all of this. So we've got example projects log config. I'm backing up all of these, very nice. And we can also set the backup directory. So you could set this to like dev sdx, for example. That's just an example actually. And then that might be some other external drive that you want to back up to, and then you have to run a sudo backup, right? Because we're handling root directories. And we can also customize some stuff. So colors equals true, we can set that false if we don't want those beautiful colors right up there. And going into the source code, it's entirely written in Ruby. So I have the thing open up here as a repository. It's entirely written in Ruby, including the build recipe. So build.rb, run this and will like install the program and also install anything necessary for it, which is just the configuration file, right? It moves the configuration file to the proper location and also makes it executable, because it's like a shell script. You can just execute it as long as you have that shebang and it's executable. So permissions 755, read, write, execute. I think that's what it is. And then backup, that's really all it is. Going into the code, if you go to backup.rb, it's about 50 lines if you ignore this little section here, and also much of the white space if you ignore that. It's actually about 40 to 45 lines of code. And then it's loading the config file. So require, that's the method for loading files. So you can either give it a file name, so you can say require, I don't know, /lib.ruby. You can do that, or you can just require libraries just like this. And this is how you call the items within arrays and hash tables, by the way. So you could say array or hash table colon and then item, and that just calls it. And then you have sub items from that item. You can even do that. So you can just say sub item, that works. And here's a good example of that. And then backups directory. So file utils is a really nice library. It literally has these Unix commands like make-dir -p, right? It has those, and you can just run those Although they don't actually use any Unix commands, these are cross-platform. They work on Windows as well or macOS. macOS also supports Unix commands because it's Unix. But yeah, you can also use this what is it called, question mark, for if this is true then that, or colon if that is not true then that. So that's similar to like run message equals colors and ants blah pipe uh, no blah in like shell. It's actually supposed to be covered with the squirrely braces or whatever here. And this is how you do it in something like bash, and this is how you do it in Ruby. So it is a scripting language. It has nice features like this. Again, I'm using a native file utils here, no system calls for anything. I said that I would do system calls in this project. That is mostly in this build.ruby. I do some system calls, so I don't do any system calls here. So I've made it sort of native Ruby, cross-platform, not not using any Unix commands. So nice Ruby project that I've created here. It helped me learn a lot of Ruby stuff, and I have to say, my overall review of the language is that it's really simple and it's really convenient. It has like this whole bunch of features that even Lua doesn't have, right? So in Lua, I spent much more time doing some project like that, and it has elegant syntax as well, so as it states in the website. And yeah, it's pretty simple, pretty readable, and it's easy to get going with. And that is my review with the Ruby programming language. So I will be making even more projects with Ruby because I ended up really liking this language.